The bright lights of the command center flashed as Lieutenant Jun Kim straightened his uniform. Today was the big day. After years of sending signals into space, aliens had finally answered. 10 minutes until contact, Lieutenant, said the communications officer. Jun nodded. At 32 years old, he never thought he would be the face of humanity to an alien species. His heart beat fast in his chest. The year was 2157. Earth had changed much in the last century. Nations worked together more now. Space travel had improved. Humans had bases on the Moon and Mars. But finding other intelligent life, that was new. The large screen at the front of the room flickered to life. At first, there was just static. Then, an image appeared. The alien had a tall head with 4 eyes and skin that looked like smooth gray stone. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Vedtak of the Nolari," the alien said in perfect English. Their computers had studied Earth's broadcasts for years before making contact. "Greetings, Vedtak. I am Lieutenant Jun Kim of Earth's United Space Command," Jun replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The first meeting went well. The Nolari seemed peaceful. They offered to share technology and knowledge. They asked many questions about Earth and humans. "Your species is most interesting," Vedtak said. "You change your environment instead of adapting to it. And this thing you call cooking. It fascinates us." "Cooking?" Jun asked, surprised by the alien's interest. "Yes, we Nolari absorb nutrients directly through our skin membranes. The idea of transforming food with heat and chemicals before consumption is unusual to us." 3 months later, the human ship Harmony traveled to meet the Nolari vessel at the edge of the solar system. Jun led the mission with a team of scientists, diplomats, and soldiers. The Nolari ship was huge. It shined like silver in the darkness of space. Inside, the halls were tall and wide with strange symbols on the walls. Vedtak greeted them personally. "Welcome to the Star Voyager *. We are honored by your presence." The humans brought gifts. Among them were books about Earth's history, art pieces, and samples of music. But what interested the Nolari most was the food. "You brought prepared nutrients?" Vedtak asked, looking at the sealed containers. "Food from Earth," Jun explained. "We thought you might want to study it." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Most interesting. Our scientists will analyze these samples with great care." During their week-long stay, Jun noticed how the Nolari watched them eat. At each meal, several aliens would stand nearby, recording everything. They seemed especially interested when anyone used spices or condiments. "Why do you add these substances that have no nutritional value?" one Nolari scientist asked. "For taste," Jun explained. "Humans enjoy different flavors." "Fascinating," the alien replied. "You seek pleasure from a survival function." On the last day, Vedtak proposed a cultural exchange program. "We wish to learn more about humans, and we want you to learn about us. Would your people accept visitors to Earth?" The human leaders back home quickly agreed. This was a historic opportunity. As the Harmony prepared to return to Earth, Vedtak gave Jun a small device. "A gift," the alien said. "It contains information about our species and history." What Jun didn't know was that the device also contained secret reports. The Nolari High Council had decided that humans were potentially dangerous. Their ability to adapt quickly, their curiosity, and their rapidly advancing technology concerned the aliens. "These humans transform everything they touch," one council member had said. "We must understand their weaknesses before they discover ours." As the Harmony flew back to Earth, Jun looked at the stars outside his window. He felt proud and hopeful. First contact had gone well. A new age for humanity had begun. He had no idea what the Nolari were really planning. 6 months passed since first contact with the Nolari. Earth had changed in that time. People talked about aliens everywhere. New words from the Nolari language appeared in daily speech. Children played with toy alien ships. On the large space station orbiting Earth, Yeon Park checked her kitchen tools one more time. At 45 years old, she was one of Korea's best chefs. Now she would cook for aliens. "Are you nervous?" asked her assistant. Yeon smiled. "Of course, but also excited. No human has cooked for aliens before." The cultural exchange program had brought 20 Nolari to Earth's orbit. They could not visit the planet yet because Earth's gravity was too strong for them. So humans built special areas on the space station for them. Today was the first cooking demonstration. Humans from many countries would show their food to the Nolari. Yeon was chosen to go first. The door opened and 5 Nolari entered the room. Vedtak was among them. "Welcome," Yeon said with a small bow. "I am honored to share human cooking with you today." Vedtak's 4 eyes blinked. "The honor is ours, Chef Yeon. We have studied your cooking shows with great interest." Yeon started with simple dishes. She showed how to make rice, then added vegetables and meat. She explained each step carefully. "We heat food for 2 reasons," she said. "First, it kills harmful bacteria. Second, it changes the taste and texture. Cooking is both science and art." The Nolari watched closely. They recorded everything with small devices. They asked many questions. "Why do you add that powder?" one asked as Yeon sprinkled salt. "It's salt. It enhances flavor," she explained. Humans discovered thousands of years ago that certain things make food taste better, even if they add no nutrition. Another Nolari stepped forward. "May we scan the food?" "Of course," Yeon replied. The alien passed a small device over the dishes. Fascinating. The chemical changes from heat are complex. After the demonstration, the Nolari thanked Yeon and left with samples of her food. They could not eat it, but they wanted to study it. What Yeon didn't know was that in another part of the station, the Nolari were having a private meeting. "The humans are more complex than we thought," Vedtak said to the others. "Their relationship with food shows how they think." An older Nolari named Zulmor spoke up. "The High Council's concerns grow. Humans adapt too quickly. In just 6 months, they have learned much of our language and technology." "What does the Council suggest?" asked another. "We must learn their weaknesses," Zulmor replied. "If they ever become a threat, we need ways to protect ourselves." Vedtak looked troubled. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "Nothing harmful," Zulmor said quickly. "Just tests. Their biology is different from ours. They consume food instead of absorbing nutrients. This could be a vulnerability. You want to test substances on them." Vedtak sounded concerned. "Small amounts. Nothing dangerous. Just enough to see how they react." Zulmor showed a small vial of clear liquid. "These compounds affect nervous systems similar to theirs. We need to know if they could affect humans." Vedtak didn't like this plan but knew the Council's orders were final. "How would we do these tests?" "Their diplomatic dinner next week," Zulmor said. "We've been invited to observe their food preparation. We can offer to add what we'll call flavor enhancers from our world. Safe cultural exchange." Meanwhile, back in her quarters, Lun reviewed the recording of her demonstration. She felt proud to represent humanity. She was already planning more complex dishes to show the Nolari. Lieutenant Jum Kim visited her that evening. "How did it go?" he asked. "Wonderful," Yeon said. "They were so interested in everything. Next week's diplomatic dinner will be even better." Neither of them knew what the Nolari were planning for that dinner. The grand hall of the space station shined with lights. Flags from Earth and the Nolari home world hung side by side. Tonight was the big diplomatic dinner that everyone had been waiting for. Yeon Park moved quickly in the kitchen. She and 5 other top chefs from around the world prepared special dishes for the important guests. They could not feed the Nolari, who did not eat solid food, but human leaders would enjoy the meal while the aliens observed. "Everything must be perfect," Yeon told her team. She checked the main dish one more time. A special rice bowl with vegetables and meat that showed flavors from many Earth cultures. There was a soft knock at the kitchen door. Vedtak and two other Nolari entered. Chef Ion, Vedtak said with a small bow. The Nolari High Council has sent a gift for this special occasion. One of the other aliens held out a small box with 6 vials of shimmering liquid. What is this? Ion asked. Flavor enhancers from our world, Vedtak explained. Safe for humans, but they will create taste experiences your people have never known. A true cultural exchange. Ion looked unsure. I don't know. We haven't tested these. Our scientists have confirmed they are safe, Vedtak said. They interact with taste receptors in ways your spices cannot. The High Council would consider it a great honor if you would use them. Not wanting to cause problems between the two species, Ion agreed. Very well. We will add small amounts to some of the dishes. How much should we use? Just a few drops per serving, Vedtak instructed. When the Nolari left, Ion carefully added the strange liquids to half of the prepared meals. She marked these dishes with a small blue dot so servers would know which ones had the alien enhancers. An hour later, 30 human diplomats and leaders sat at the long table with 10 Nolari observers around the edges of the room. Lieutenant Jum Kim sat near the head of the table, proud of how well relations between humans and aliens had developed. The servers brought out the beautiful dishes. Bun announced each one, explaining which had the special Nolari flavor enhancers. Many guests chose these dishes, excited to try something truly alien. At first, everything seemed fine. The humans ate and talked with the Nolari. But after 20 minutes, something strange began to happen. This tastes amazing, said one diplomat, his eyes wide. I've never experienced anything like it. Others who had eaten the enhanced food nodded in agreement. The flavors seemed to change and develop in their mouths in impossible ways. But then the first person stood up suddenly, looking pale. I don't feel well, he said, before rushing from the room. Within minutes, 12 people who had eaten the enhanced food showed signs of illness. Some felt dizzy, others became sick to their stomachs. A few reported seeing strange colors. Medical teams rushed in. The dinner ended in confusion and worry. In a lab 2 levels below, Dr. Han Su worked quickly. At 50 years old, he was Earth's leading scientist in alien biology. Now he studied samples of the affected food and blood from the sick diplomats. This is very strange, he told his team as he looked at test results. These compounds are similar to certain neurotoxins, but modified. They're not immediately dangerous, but they definitely affect the human nervous system. His assistant looked worried. Are you saying the Nolari poisoned our people? I'm saying these aren't just flavor enhancers, Dr. Han replied carefully. They're bioactive compounds that interact with human biology in complex ways. The question is, did the Nolari know this would happen? In the medical bay, Jum Kim watched as doctors treated the affected diplomats. Most were feeling better already, but the incident had created a serious problem. Were the Nolari testing weapons on humans, or was this just a mistake? As he turned to leave, a diplomat called out to him. Lieutenant Kim, the woman said weakly from her bed. Before I got sick, that was the most incredible thing I've ever tasted. We need to find out what was in that food. Jun was surprised. He had expected anger, not curiosity. Colonel Dayun did not trust the Nolari. At 52 years old, he had spent 30 years in military intelligence. He knew when someone was hiding something. 3 days after the dinner incident, Dai sat in a small room deep inside the space station. Screens covered the walls showing information about the Nolari. 6 other intelligence officers worked at computers around him. What have we found? He asked his team. A young woman looked up from her screen. Sir, all the affected diplomats have recovered. No lasting harm. Good, Da nodded. And the compounds? Dr. Han's report says they're definitely bioactive. They target neural pathways related to taste and sensory processing. They also affect mood centers in the brain. Dave frowned. So not just flavor enhancers? No, sir. They're more like drugs. In another part of the station, Jung Kim met with VedTech. The alien seemed truly upset about what had happened. I assure you, Lieutenant, we had no idea humans would react this way, VedTech said. These compounds are used in our scientific studies. They were supposed to enhance sensory experience, not cause illness. Then why didn't your scientists test them properly? Jun asked. VedTech's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A grave oversight. The High Council sends its deepest apologies. Jun wasn't sure he believed the alien, but he nodded anyway. We need all information about these compounds. Dr. Han is studying them now. Later that day, in his office, Da-Yum received a message from one of his best agents who had been monitoring Nolari communications. The message was marked urgent. We've intercepted and decoded some transmissions between the Nolari ship and their representatives here, the agent reported. Sir, this wasn't an accident. They're running tests on us. Day leaned forward. Show me. The agent displayed a translated message on the screen. Asterisk, initial tests promising. Compounds 3 and 4 show expected interaction with human nervous system. Subjects displayed temporary disorientation and sensory enhancement before rejection symptoms. Dosage adjustments needed for further testing. Continue monitoring for delayed effects. Asterisk. Day's face darkened. They're treating us like lab animals. There's more, sir. Look at this directive from their High Council. Another message appeared. Asterisk, continue research into potential vulnerabilities. Humans adapt quickly and their technology advances rapidly. We must understand their biological weaknesses before they surpass us. Asterisk. Meanwhile, something strange was happening. News about the dinner incident had spread, even though officials tried to keep it quiet. Social media was buzzing with talk about the alien spice that had made people sick, but also gave them amazing taste experiences. Dr. Han Su was surprised when 3 of the diplomats who had gotten sick asked him about the compounds. We know they made us ill, one said, but before that, it was incredible. The flavors were like nothing on Earth. Is there any way to make them safe? Dr. Han shook his head. We're still studying them. They're complex and interact with human biology in ways we don't fully understand yet. That evening, Jung Kim received a strange report. Someone had hacked into Dr. Han's lab system and stolen the initial analysis of the Nolari compounds. The hack was traced to a food science company on Earth. Across the planet, on message boards and in chat rooms, people were talking about the cosmic spice incident. Food enthusiasts, thrill seekers, and pharmaceutical researchers all showed interest. One popular post read, "Aliens gave us space seasonings that made food taste like heaven before making people sick. Don't we have scientists who can fix the sick part but keep the heaven part?" Colonel Da-Yun called an emergency meeting with station leadership. The Nolari are testing biological weapons on us, he told them, showing the intercepted messages. Jun looked troubled. We need to confront them immediately. There's one more thing, Da said. We have another problem. He showed them the social media posts and the report about the hack. Humans aren't afraid of the compounds, he explained. They want them. People are actually trying to get their hands on alien poison because they like how it tastes. No one knew how to respond to that. 1 week after the dinner incident, the Nolari representatives sat in a meeting room on the space station. They looked confused. VedTech read the report on his screen again, not sure he understood it correctly. This cannot be right, he said to his fellow Nolari. The humans are asking for more of our compounds, the very ones that made them sick. Another Nolari named Keldor nodded. It's true. Their media is full of talk about the alien spice. Food companies are offering large amounts of money for the formula. Outside the station on Earth, the story of the alien compounds had spread everywhere. News channels reported on what they called the cosmic cuisine incident. Chefs and food experts debated the potential of safely using the new flavors. Even though officials had not released much information, People knew that the alien additives had created taste experiences like nothing on Earth before making people sick. That was enough to spark huge interest. In her apartment in Seoul, Yeon Park watched the news with growing interest. As one of the chefs who had used the compounds, she felt responsible. But she also couldn't stop thinking about how the diplomats had described the flavors. Not just stronger or different, one had told her. It was like tasting in new dimensions. Colors had flavors, sounds had tastes. Yeon made a decision. She called Dr. Han Soo. "Doctor, I need to meet with you about the Nolari compounds," she said when he answered. "Chef Park, what about them?" he asked. "I think we can make them safe for humans. With your knowledge of how they affect us and my understanding of food chemistry, we might be able to adjust them." There was silence for a moment. Then Dr. Han said, "Actually, I've been working on that very thing. Come to my lab tomorrow." Meanwhile, at the United Nations in New York, officials debated how to respond to the Nolari's actions. Colonel Da-yoon presented his findings to the Security Council. "The evidence is clear," he said. "The Nolari deliberately tested these compounds on humans without proper safety checks. They wanted to see how our biology would react." A council member raised her hand. But was this an act of war, or just poor scientific practice? "Their intentions are concerning," Dai admitted. "But the compounds weren't lethal. They seemed to be testing potential vulnerabilities rather than trying to harm us directly." Another council member spoke up. "We have a strange situation here. The public isn't calling for punishment of the Nolari. They're asking for access to these compounds. We've received petitions from food industry groups, research institutions, and even ordinary citizens." At that moment, Lieutenant Jum Kim entered the room with a tablet. "Excuse me, but you all need to see this." He put the tablet on the table and played a video. On the screen, a famous chef was cooking in his kitchen. "Today, I'm trying my own version of what people are calling cosmic spice. No, it's not the real alien stuff, but I've used similar Earth compounds to create what I think might be close." The chef added a shimmering powder to a dish and served it to guests. Their reactions were dramatic: wide eyes, gasps of amazement, and expressions of pure joy. "People are trying to recreate the compounds," June explained. "Some are getting close enough to create strong sensory effects, though not as powerful as the real thing." Back on the space station, Yeon Park met with the Nolari delegation. To their surprise, she didn't come with complaints about the dinner incident. "I want to work with you," she told VedTech. "I believe we can modify your compounds to be safe for humans while preserving their unique properties." VedTech's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in confusion. "You want to continue using them?" "Of course," Yeon said with a smile. "They made people sick, yes. But before that, they created the most amazing flavors humans have ever experienced. We don't want to give that up. We want to make it better." The Nolari looked at each other, completely baffled by the human response. On the Nolari ship orbiting far from Earth, the High Council gathered for an emergency meeting. 12 senior Nolari sat around a circular table. Their gray skin reflected the blue lights of the chamber. VedTech stood in the center, giving his report. "Respected council members, I must inform you that our test has failed." "But not in the way we expected," VedTech said. The head council member, Toleran, leaned forward. "Explain." "The compounds affected the humans as our scientists predicted. They disrupted neural pathways and caused discomfort." VedTech paused. "But the humans are not afraid. They are not angry. They are interested. Interested in something that harmed them." Another council member asked. VedTech displayed images from Earth on the large screen. News reports showed people talking excitedly about the compounds. Scientists were shown working in labs. Food experts debated on talk shows. Humans are actively trying to get more of our compounds. They want to modify them to keep the sensory effects but remove the harmful ones. VedTech explained. "One of their chefs has even asked to work with us directly." The council chamber filled with confused murmurs. This makes no sense, Tolren said. Our psychological profiles suggested they would respond with fear and distrust after such an incident. Zulmore, who had suggested the tests, looked troubled. We may have miscalculated. These humans adapt in ways we didn't predict. Vedtak showed more images. Some humans have already filed business plans for what they call safely processed alien seasonings. Others are trying to recreate our compounds with Earth materials. How is this possible? Asked an older council member. The test happened only 10 days ago. Humans move quickly, Vedtak replied, and they share information at remarkable speed. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Han Su and Yun Park worked in his lab. They had small samples of the original Nolari compounds and were running tests on modified versions. The problem is the molecular structure, Dr. Han explained. It binds too strongly to certain neural receptors. That's what causes the illness. Ilan looked at the models on the screen. Can we change it just enough to make it safe, but keep the flavor properties? I think so, Dr. Han said. Look at this. He showed her a modified structure. This should bind more gently, still creates the sensory effects, but without overloading the system. In another part of the world, a pharmaceutical company had already created a similar compound. They called it stellar extract and were testing it on volunteer subjects. One test subject smiled after tasting a drop. It's amazing. Not as strong as what the news described from the alien version, but still, I tasted colors. I heard flavors. It was like nothing else. Back on the space station, Lieutenant Jum Kim met with Colonel Da-Yoon to discuss the situation. The Nolari High Council has requested a meeting, Jum said. They seemed confused by our response. Day looked at the latest intelligence reports. They should be. Their plan backfired completely. They wanted to find our weaknesses. Instead, they gave us a new technology that we're already improving. Do you think they meant to harm us? Joan asked. Test us, certainly. Harm us, not directly. But they definitely wanted to find vulnerabilities they could exploit later if needed, Day replied. They didn't expect us to take their weapon and turn it into something we want. On the Nolari ship, the Council reached a decision. We must reevaluate our approach to humans, Tolren announced. Vedtak, you will tell them we are deeply sorry for the incident. Offer to work with them on making the compound safe. And our real purpose? Vedtak asked. We still need to understand them better, but it seems direct tests are not the way. These humans, they don't react like any species we've encountered before. Vedtak nodded. They turn problems into opportunities. They see a weapon and ask for the recipe. As he prepared to return to the station, Vedtak wondered what would happen next. The humans were already starting to create their own versions of the compounds. They were moving faster than the Nolari had planned. For the first time, Vedtak felt something he had never expected to feel about humans. Concern. Not about their weakness, but about their strength. 3 weeks after the dinner incident, Dr. Han Su stood in his lab looking at test results. He had not slept much lately. Coffee cups littered his desk. But today, he smiled. I think we've done it, he said to Yun Park, who worked beside him. Ilan looked at the screen showing molecular models. The compounds are stable. Yes, and the tests show no harmful effects on neural tissue. Dr. Han pointed to another screen. We've modified the binding sites just enough. The sensory enhancement remains, but the toxicity is gone. Ilan picked up a small vial of light blue liquid. This was their 15th version. The first 14 had failed in different ways. Some lost the special flavor effects. Others still caused mild sickness, but version 15 seemed perfect. We need human volunteers to test it, Dr. Han said. Ian smiled. I volunteer. Are you sure? We think it's safe, but I helped create it. I should be the first to try it, Ian said firmly. Dr. Han carefully prepared a drop of the compound on a small piece of bread. Yun ate it while medical equipment monitored her body. At first, nothing happened. Then her eyes widened. "Oh," she gasped. "It's amazing. Better than the reports described." "What do you experience?" Dr. Han asked, taking notes. "The flavors have dimensions, like I can taste the history of the bread. The wheat growing in fields. The sun that fed it." Yun closed her eyes. "There's a slight tingle, but no pain, no dizziness." For the next hour, Dr. Han monitored her. All signs remained normal. The compound worked exactly as they had hoped. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Jum Kim and Colonel Da-yoon met with VedTech and 2 other Nolari representatives. The meeting was tense but productive. "Our scientists have shared all data on the compounds," VedTech said. "We deeply regret the incident. It was not meant to cause harm." Da looked skeptical. "Yet you didn't inform us of your tests." "A mistake in judgment," VedTech admitted. "We were concerned about human adaptability and wanted to understand your responses to certain stimuli." "You mean our weaknesses," Chun said directly. VedTech's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Yes, we were cautious. Your species advances quickly. This is both impressive and concerning to older species like ours." Before they could continue, Jun received an urgent message. He looked at his tablet and smiled. "It seems our discussion about the compounds may not matter much longer," he told the group. "Dr. Han and Chef Park have successfully modified them. They've created a safe version that keeps all the sensory properties but removes the harmful effects." The Nolari looked at each other in surprise. "That's impossible," one said. "Our scientists worked on these compounds for decades." "Apparently not," Daz said with a slight smile. 2 days later, news of the breakthrough spread worldwide. Dr. Han and Yun named their creation Stellar Spice. They released the formula publicly instead of patenting it, allowing anyone to make it. Food companies rushed to produce versions of Stellar Spice. Restaurants created new dishes featuring it. Chefs experimented with different uses. Within a week, it became the most talked about food innovation in human history. On social media, people shared videos of their first time trying Stellar Spice. Their reactions were always the same: amazement, joy, and wonder. One popular cooking show host said, "This changes everything we know about food. It's not just a new spice. It's a new way of experiencing taste itself." The Nolari watched all this with growing amazement. VedTech sent regular reports to the High Council. "In just 3 weeks," he wrote, "they took our test compounds, which were harmful to them, and transformed them into something beneficial. Now they're sharing this knowledge freely among their whole species." The response from the council was simple: "Continue observation. We may have severely underestimated these humans." In her kitchen at home, Lun tried a new recipe with Stellar Spice. As she cooked, she smiled at the thought that something meant to test human weakness had instead revealed their greatest strength: the ability to turn problems into opportunities. 2 months after the dinner incident, a massive ship appeared near Jupiter. It was 3 times larger than any Nolari vessel. Golden symbols decorated its silver hull. This was the flagship of the Galactic Council, a group of 17 advanced species that governed this part of the galaxy. The Nolari were members of this council. Humans had not known it existed until now. On the space station, Lieutenant Jum Kim received an urgent message. The Galactic Council requests a meeting with Earth representatives. They wish to discuss the recent incident with the Nolari compounds. Earth leaders quickly gathered. Some worried this might be bad news. Perhaps the Council would punish humans for modifying alien technology. Colonel Da-yoon had his security teams on high alert. 3 days later, 5 representatives from the Galactic Council arrived at the station. Each was from a different species. Their leader was Xorvin, a tall being with golden skin who spoke through a translation device. "We come to address a serious matter," Sorvin announced to the gathered human leaders. "The Nolari conducted unauthorized tests on your species. This violates our laws." VedTech and the other Nolari representatives stood nearby, looking uncomfortable. The council has reviewed the reports, Sorvin continued. The Nolari will face consequences for their actions. The room was quiet. Then Jum stepped forward. We appreciate your concern, but the situation has evolved beyond the initial incident. Explain, Sorvin said. June nodded to Yun Park and Dr. Han, who presented their work on stellar spice. They showed data, videos of people using it, and explained how they had modified the compounds. What was meant as a test has become a beneficial innovation, Yun explained. Stellar spice has created new possibilities for human cuisine and sensory experience. The council members looked at each other in surprise. One of them, a blue-skinned being, spoke up. You took potentially harmful compounds and improved them in just weeks. Yes, Dr. Han said simply. And instead of seeking revenge against the Nolari, you created a food product, asked another council member. We saw an opportunity to learn and create something new, June explained. That is the human way. Sorvin seemed impressed. In my 500 years on the council, I have never seen such a response to what was clearly an attempt to test vulnerabilities. The meeting continued for hours. The council members asked many questions about humans, Earth, and stellar spice. They were particularly interested in how quickly humans had adapted the alien technology. Near the end of the meeting, Sorvin made an unexpected offer. The Galactic Council would like to establish formal relations with Earth. Your species has demonstrated remarkable qualities. The human representatives accepted gladly. This was a huge step forward, recognition from the larger galactic community. As the meeting ended, Jun noticed Vedtak standing alone. The Nolari seemed troubled. Your council doesn't look happy with you, Jun said. Vedtak's 4 eyes blinked slowly. We will face sanctions for our unauthorized test. But that is not what concerns me most. What then? We sought to find your weaknesses. Instead, you showed strength we did not expect. Now many species will want to know more about humans. Some may see opportunity in alliance. Others may see potential threats. June considered this. We don't seek conflict. We're explorers and innovators. I believe you, Vedtak said. And I will tell the council that humans would make better allies than subjects of study. Later, Earth's leaders met to discuss the new situation. Humanity now stood on the edge of joining the larger galactic community. It had happened much faster than anyone expected. They still underestimate us, Colonel Daz said. The council speaks of humans like we're clever children. Let them, Jun replied. We know our own strength. At that moment, a message arrived from the Galactic Council ship. It contained a formal request to trade with Earth. The first item on their list was stellar spice. They offered advanced technology in return. Humanity was about to change the galaxy, one flavor at a time. 5 years had passed since the dinner incident that changed everything. On a space station near Alpha Centauri, Yun Park adjusted her chef's coat and looked into the camera. Red lights blinked on, signaling she was live across 17 planets. Welcome to stellar cuisine, she said with a smile. Today we're making Earth Nolari fusion dishes with guests from both worlds. At 50 years old, Yun had become the most famous chef in the galaxy. Her cooking show was watched by beings from many different species. Today, she had special guests, Lieutenant Jum Kim, now Admiral Kim, and Vedtak, who served as the Nolari ambassador to Earth. Ambassador Vedtak, would you share the story of how our worlds first connected through food? Yun asked as she prepared ingredients. Vedtak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A rather embarrassing beginning on our part, he admitted. We tried to test humans with compounds in their food. But instead of getting angry, they asked for the recipe. The studio audience laughed. Even 5 years later, the story was still told across the galaxy as an example of human ingenuity. And now stellar spice is the most traded product from Earth, Yun said. 17 species enjoy it. each experiencing it differently based on their biology. As uncooked, she added small amounts of different versions of stellar spice. Dr. Han Su had created special formulations for each alien species, ensuring safe and enjoyable experiences for all. After the show, Admiral Kim and Vedtak walked together through the station's large garden area. Things had changed dramatically in 5 years. Earth now had trade agreements with 12 alien species. Human restaurants had opened on 7 planets. Stellar spice was just the beginning. Humans had adapted many aspects of alien technology while sharing their own innovations. Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way? June asked. Vedtak made a gesture that humans had learned was a Nolari smile. Never. The High Council thought humans would either become afraid of aliens after the incident or demand harsh punishment. Instead, we asked for cooking lessons, June laughed. That is what makes humans unique in our experience, Vedtak said. Most species react to threats with fear or anger. You see opportunities where others see problems. Later that day, in a secure meeting room, representatives from the Galactic Council gathered. Among them was Colonel Dayun, now General Da, who represented Earth's security interests. The human expansion has exceeded all projections, said Sorvin, still the head of the council after 5 years. Their colonies have reached 3 star systems. Their technology advances rapidly. Is this a concern? Asked another council member. A surprise, certainly, Sorvin replied. But humans have shown themselves to be cooperative partners. Their approach to the galaxy is refreshing. General Day spoke up. Earth wishes to propose a new diplomatic initiative. We call it the Galactic Culinary Exchange. He explained the plan to create special diplomatic events centered around food and cultural sharing, meals where different species could gather informally and build trust. Food diplomacy, Daz said. It's how humans have built bridges between cultures for thousands of years on Earth. The council approved the idea unanimously. That evening, Yun hosted a private dinner for friends. Dr. Han Su was there, showing off his newest version of stellar spice. So were Admiral Kim, General Da, and Vedtak. A toast, Yun said, raising her glass, to unexpected beginnings and surprising friendships. Everyone drank to that. After dinner, Vedtak pulled Yun aside. There is something I have always wanted to ask you, the alien said. When you discovered what we had done, that we had tested potentially harmful compounds on your people, why did you not seek punishment? Why did you ask for the recipe instead? Yun smiled. That's simple. Humans have always been curious. We've always wanted to try new things, to taste new flavors, to explore. It's who we are. You gave us something new, something amazing. Of course, we wanted more of it, even though it was meant as a test. Intentions matter less than results sometimes, Yun said. You tried to find our weakness but discovered our strength instead. Vedtak nodded slowly. To think it all began with a dinner gone wrong. The best recipes, Yun replied with a laugh, often come from mistakes.